again to Sage, Synergetic Age, a New World, Eligion. Episode 129, SEEEC 53, February 20, 2022. Part 1, Finite and De-finite Cosmic Awareness. Reference for this episode today is included. Links are provided in my transcript on my website, sagesynergeticage.com. Read the entire transcript for your research in this education experiment. Synergetics, Eligion Experiential Experimental Education Complex, SEEEC. What if our humanities anticipatory design science realities are initiated as our individual economic initiative recognizes finite universes, de-finite local systems, while referentially conceptualizing the omnisymmetrical tetrahedron? Would that subconscious to conscious conceptualization experience qualify as a new era, a new beginning, a freshly starting cosmic awareness? With this geometric model in mind, the individual consciousness evolutions, macrocosmic and microcosmic perspective is differently conceived from when the eternal patterning integrity was unknown. It constitutes the two main parts into which universe can be divided, macrocosm and microcosm. Macro does not equal micro, micro does not equal macro, and micro to macro problem solving is inherently frustrated. In respect to universe, concave and convex two-ness is but one kind of two-ness, and which are different phenomena. The concave is all that is inside the system, the convex is all that is outside the system. So, this new era of cosmic awareness can be anticipated to manifest the most economical way of behaving relative to unity and self in universe. Unlike the inherited PRJWBCS, politics, religion, justice, war, belief complex schemes, behavioral patterns of great effort, omnirational geometric models permit humans of universe eternal omniscient mind, YOM, omnisynergetical, least effort, evolutionary schemata, referential frames. Our intelligent species, humans of a mind, could say in this entire regard that the geodesic referential geometry and topology provide a matrix conceptuality corresponding to the womb of total human consciousness. The inherited PRJWBC schemes encompass the womb of permitted ignorance. The womb of permitted ignorance promotes human imagination's use of the sound word God. Oddly, though, it is rarely recognized as a self-negating, otherness-controlling, quasi-personality that supplants self-identity. This occurs as environmental factors in early childhood may have developed to further delude recognizing one's self-identity and the inherently inviolable integrity of the individual. The dilemma seems to have split the human personality into variously perceived fractionation. It is where good and evil compete for attention in a personalized quest to influence and control the interrelating dominant forces. As well, it is where the least generalized content of information induces the easiest adapted to personality traits that conceal and reveal the mild or severe vengeful reaction correlating to the degree of mistreatment suffered upon the child. To varying degree of real or imagined insult, correlating to the nature of the human's innate curiosity. Varying contrived solutions are imagined to settle the upsetting turns of events. Turns of events occur beyond the child's ability to control, as its observations naturally consider the most viable solution relative to a sense of balance and stability that correlate to the actions and reactions resulting from the imposed condition and conditioning. It can be where religion inculcation induces punitive emulations as the individual personality reactions can accept or reject such behavior which might disagree with the individual's innate sense of truth, and survival persists in an ongoing search for it even from earliest childhood. It is the discontinuity of subconscious life that becomes the disordered personality. As a complex of disturbing interactions occurs that persistently refer to suffering, as the sacrificial message considers such irrational behavior as a necessity made more authoritative from the concept God and Christ. Christ configurations symbolically are human innovations that actually identify degrees of inhumanity. Humanly innovated suffering identifies unresolved behavioral complexes of the ever-reenacting articulations that tend to increase the tolerance magnitudes of the residual inaccuracies of observation and articulation. Those inaccuracies predominantly comprise the PRJWBCSR factor, in parentheses religion, the R factors, cultivated ignorance, that seems ever to be a regenerating competition with the P factor, politics, and its J factor, justice, in a war W factor of incommensurability, irresolution. Incommensurable is defined by Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary, 11th edition, as lacking a basis for comparison in respect to a quality normally subject to comparison. Commensurate means corresponding in size, amount, extent, or degree which is proportionate. The inherited belief complex schemes that promote God position the influential inclination outside the natural comparison, since imaginably there can be no comparison to the divine. Consequently, the incommensurability permits the most deviously contrived challenges to the justice systems of the world, where human beings en masse can become further deluded without knowing how otherwise to eliminate the threats from seemingly simplistic, symbolic, schematic confusion. By contrast, universe's lowest common rational denominator, the omnisymmetrical tetrahedron, provides the discontinuity of conscious life and continuity of conscious life's evolution personality, the geometric models for omnirationally accommodating the complex of periodic interactions known as cycles or periodic recurrences of a higher frequency order with a basic unit of measure. With respect to the whole WHOLE systems, convexity and concavity, isolation of insideness from outsideness differs drastically, as does self-isolation, wherever the R factor split personality further imposes the inherited detriments of its confusing distinction. The quest for the metaphysical intellect is ever to distinguish God from the relative insanity that persists on deluding the child's natural curiosity concerning the truth of its own nature and the beauty of the natural environment. It is where innovative schemers whose need to dominate and control others with God as their unquestioned advantage versus the devil image may have taken the D from Deus and placed it in front of the word evil, contriving a projected identity to be known as the devil. It suffices to cast blame away from the originating articulations that are cultivated by the R factor and that is suffered upon humans at every vulnerable stage and phase of the developing personality's discontinuity and reenacting subconscious life. Deus, in earliest Latin, is God. Merriam-Webster's online lists 8 decidedly interesting comparisons that help to clarify what we may eventually formulate subsequently to viewing the many video documentaries related to crimes of seemingly inexplicable intentions, with enough of those investigations as observations of a particular reenacting articulation that targets specific segments of the human population, language becomes relevant to the reactions as actions become more revealing, correlated to systemic thought's least economic way of behaving. Most of us don't ordinarily account for the cost of every conceivable interpretation of this word God, Deus, I might be mispronouncing it, that are listed in the online Merriam-Webster's dictionary until perhaps we might see a reference to Deus, Deus, as I did yesterday while watching the Netflix documentary John of God, The Crimes of a Spiritual Healer. Perhaps you have someone in your personal communications who is likewise deluded by this sound word God, but by comparison initially may seem to bear no clear-cut intention other than imposing God as that person's interpretation of purity by signifying apparel unintentionally wearing the color white to prove God's supposedly most loving purest intention. It can be classified as a type of mental disorder to the extreme. To trace the behavior pattern to the person's childhood is not always viable. Much has intervened from anyone's childhood to their adult behavior, for whatever it serves as an example case. Almost missing what was mentioned about Richard Ramirez's childhood, where his father's punishment was so severe and played a pivoting influence on his personality, shown as the popularly identified Devil Star symbol, as an inked tattoo on his hand in the Netflix documentary Night Stalker, The Hunt for a Serial Killer. Synergetics figure 618.01 shows the correct information by illustrating the geodesic sphere, and also from what the whole WHOLE system's integral geometry derives. No wonder subconsciously ignorant, fearful cautionaries from earliest times negatively influenced multi-generations of human intellection by discrediting the very geometry of nature's coordinate symmetry and the individual's geometry of thinking. De-finite systems of finite universe conceptually correlate to frequency and resistance inside-outing. Inside-outsiding is one of the 6 motion freedoms. To be continued in part 2. Thank you.